Welcome again to another CheapWineFinder.com podcast. This is Domain Dave. And we're still in holiday 2022 mode here. And actually, this is a year-round wine. This is one of my favorite bubblies at any price. What we have today is the Gruet Blanc de Blanc Brut from, of all places, Albuquerque, New Mexico. And there's a story behind that. And I think it lists for $17, but I found it for $13.99 at a local shop. And you can find these at Target and other places, always for a pretty decent price. And it's amazing what they can do with a champagne-style sparkling wine that's not from Champagne. Gruet started his own champagne house in Champagne in 1967. And in 1984, parts of his family, there is a little like a French community in the mountains around Albuquerque because the wine, the soil and the conditions there were something that they saw and thought had a lot of opportunity there. And the younger family planted a vineyard out that way, and Gruet came over, and by 1989, I think their first year was a 1987 vintage bubbly. And I think Gruet died in 1999, and by that point, they'd sold 1 million bottles in those 10 years. Started out strong and staying strong. They've partnered with Precept Wines. It's the largest family-owned winery in the Northwest, second largest winery in Washington State. To be able to get their hands on more wine. They've outgrown what New Mexico can give them for wine. So they also have some grapes here from California and Washington too. So it's still the same methods of production, just like Champagne, just like it always was, and just kind of more or less like the Champagne house. They have Gruet et Fils, that's Gruet and Sons in Champagne. You know, so it's actually, I think it's become more famous than their Champagne house. I'm going to take a sip here. This is the Blanc de Blanc. They have the whole selection. Blanc de Blanc means white from white. White wine from white grapes means Chardonnay. Blanc de Noir means there's some red grapes in there. Usually all means either like if in a champagne style, it's either Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier, but you can use other grapes if you're not in Champagne. And if you see Brut, on there, that usually means there's a mixture of both. And then Rosé is basically a mixture of both, but they left the grape skins in longer and made it pink. So that's that. So this is actually an excellent wine. It's got a great length. It's lean, it's long, it's subtle. It's got tons of flavor. It's got some weight on the palate. The flavors kind of stay with you. I mean, there's two ways to go with Champagne in my mind. The best Champagne I ever had was years ago, before I even knew what wine was. And that wine was so bone dry that it disappeared in your mouth. You almost didn't have to swallow. It was just gone. Just the flavors would hit your palate and then evaporate into the air. It was magical. And this isn't that, but this one stays with you. It's kind of like the other side of the excellent Champagne coin, as it were. And this one, flavors just keep on going, and the city is a kind of a city that makes you want to take another sip, but you're not even really thinking about doing it. But it's like, yeah, kind of like I always say, it's like pretzels in a beer bar. The more pretzels you eat, the more beer you drink. Well, the more you sip, the more you want to sip here. Let's take another sip. It's got the traditional flavors. It's not that yeasty. I know some people don't like the yeasty part of Champagne. I don't mind it, but it's not that pronounced here. And the flavors are all very approachable. There's peach and there's pear and there's lemons and maybe some maybe more dried pineapple, nectarine, and that type of thing. It's not nothing in there is hard to get your head behind. but it all tastes fine, and it kind of just keeps on going. It's got really good length. It's really nice. This is a solid bottle of wine for $14, and the length it's in itself. There's always when I taste champagne style, value style priced bubbly, it often does very well. It does what champagne does, but it doesn't do everything champagne does. But with this wine here, this one has the length. It has the acidity. I'm like, okay. I mean, if I'm doing a blind tasting, I might like the $35, $40 champagne better, but this is the $13.99 champagne. And I went to a tasting years ago where one of the Gruet's vintage dated wine, I think it was like $28 back in those days. It was a tasting, and people voted it won the award. There was a bunch of $70, $80 champagnes, and the Gruet wine won. And that just tells you that they can make a good wine. And this is a remarkably good wine. I mean, if you don't know champagne, this is a good place to start because, I don't know what your budget is and how you want to do things, but you might not ever want to get away from this. This might be enough. This might be everything you want from a good sparkling wine without having to spend $35, $40, $50 on a wine. It's got the acidity. You can have it with a meal. You can have it on its own. I think sipping it is the way better way. Just you concentrate on it. But it's a really great Gruet Blanc de Blanc Brut is a really nice wine. I'm impressed. Now, I've had Gruet in the past, and I'm kind of like, I knew what to expect, and I got more than what I knew. So there you go for a $14 champagne-style wine from a champagne house from France that is making wines from New Mexico, California, and Washington State, and it's still good. And even though they make a lot of it, but they make of the entry Chandon, Domaine Chandon, that entry wine, they use 100 different vineyards and they make 1 million bottles. So if a wine is popular, well, so is Chandon. So don't hold that against it. It's a really nice wine. So that's it for me, Domaine Dave. We got a home run here. The Gruet Blanc de Blanc Brut. I have links to the websites for everything on the cheapwinefinder.com website. And it's one of my, this is the bubbly to beat for the 2022 holidays. And I'll be talking to everybody in a couple of days. I have another Thanksgiving wine. I have a Beaujolais. So for the people who don't want a $7.99 Trader Joe's wine on their table, they want something upscale, I've got a $10, $11 French Beaujolais that will do the trick too. So adios, keep it cheap, stay warm because it's getting cold, and I'll be talking to everybody in a couple of days because the holidays are coming and we're here here to help you out because that's what we do for like the last 13, 14 years. So check back with us and I'll be talking to everybody. Adios, bye-bye, keep it cheap.